In 1926, a man in a brown fedora walked into a newspaper office in Detroit. He held a press release that would change the lives of 12,000 workers overnight. Starting Monday, he said, the factory will close on Saturdays. The newspapers called him a visionary, a humanitarian, but in the Ford archives, there is a letter he wrote 3 years earlier. And it says nothing about kindness. You grew up believing weekends are yours. 2 days off, a reward for hard work, a natural rhythm of life. But the weekend is not natural. It was invented, and the man who invented it did not want you to rest. He wanted you to buy. Before Ford, the average American factory worker put in 6 days, 10 to 12 hours a day, 72 hours a week. There was no Saturday off. There was no Sunday off for many. In 1890, the government tried to count how many hours people worked. They gave up. The numbers were too high to track. Children worked 14-hour shifts in textile mills. Adults collapsed from exhaustion on the factory floor. This was not abuse. This was standard. Then came the Model T. Ford did not just build cars. He built a new kind of worker. And he noticed something strange. The men who worked 5 days made fewer mistakes than the men who worked 6. Productivity did not fall. It rose. But Ford did not cut the week to 5 days because he cared about their sleep. He did it because he had done the math on what a rested worker spends. In 1923, Ford wrote to his dealers, the worker needs time to drive. Not time to think. Not time to be with family. Time to drive. Time to use the product. The 5-day week was not a gift. It was a sales funnel. Ford paid his workers $5 a day. That was double the industry standard. But there was a condition. To get the full wage, workers had to prove they were spending it wisely. Ford had a department called the Sociological Department. 200 investigators visited workers' homes. They checked if you drank, if you saved money, if your wife worked. If you failed the inspection, your pay was cut. Ford was not paying you to live better. He was paying you to live Ford. The weekend was the final piece. Give them Saturday, and they will drive to the countryside. They will buy gas. They will buy tires. They will buy the idea that freedom has 4 wheels. Other companies watched. They saw the numbers. By 1940, the 5-day week was standard in most American industries. But something else happened that Ford did not plan. A new industry was born to fill the empty Saturday. In 1925, there were roughly 300 movie theaters in America. By 1930, there were over 10,000. The weekend created the weekend economy. And the weekend economy needed one thing. Tired people with money. The 8-hour day was next. Not because science proved 8 hours was optimal, but because 8 hours left just enough evening to spend before sleep. The 40-hour week was not designed for your health. It was designed to maximize the gap between exhaustion and bedtime. That gap is where capitalism lives. And you still live in that gap. Think about your last Saturday. You did not rest. You performed rest. You bought coffee. You bought a streaming subscription. You bought the idea that this was your time. The average American spends over $2,000 on weekend leisure annually. That is not leisure. That is a transaction. The weekend did not free you from work. It turned you into a consumer on a schedule. Monday through Friday, you are the product. Saturday and Sunday, you're the customer. Both roles serve the same system. And the system never stops. In 1930, the economist John Maynard Keynes predicted a 15-hour workweek by 2030. He assumed that as productivity rose, work would shrink. He was wrong. Productivity rose. Work stayed. Because productivity without consumption is meaningless. The system does not need you to work less. It needs you to want more. The weekend is the carrot. And you have been chasing it for 100 years. But here's what Ford could not predict. The internet turned every hour into a potential transaction. There is no closing time online. There is no Saturday offline. The weekend did not disappear. It was dissolved into the week. You are not overworked because the system failed. You are overworked because the system adapted. It learned to sell you rest the same way it sells you labor. A meditation app, a vacation package, a better mattress for deeper sleep, so you can work harder Monday. You are not recovering on the weekend. You are reloading. And when the battery is full, you go back. Ford gave you Saturday not so you could live, but so you could want. And wanting is harder work than labor. Labor ends. Wanting never does. So the next time you wake up on Saturday and feel like you should be doing something, that is not your voice. That is a 100-year-old marketing campaign, still playing. You did not get weekends. You got soul weekends. And the only way to truly own them is to stop wanting what they told you to want on them. Rest is not a product. Silence is not a subscription. And the most radical thing you can do with your weekend is nothing, and mean it.